Good evening, everybody. My name is Cliff Kahili. I'm City Manager for the City of Mesquite, and I want to welcome you to our last Town Hall Tuesday of the year. We are pleasantly surprised by the turnout. We figured everybody would be too busy with Christmas shopping and all of that to come out tonight, so we're glad to see everyone. This is a very interesting topic for us, and it's something that all of the staff involved have been very excited about over the past couple of years, and we're starting to see a lot of things take shape with our downtown projects. So just a couple of things about Town Hall Tuesday. If who is first time to a Town Hall Tuesday? Any? Okay, good. We're glad y'all were able to make it, and we're glad for all of our regulars as well. One of the things we offer is we have a lot of staff members who are here to answer any questions. So after the meeting, if there's questions that you didn't want to ask during the meeting, several members of the city manager staff, along with our city council, we tend to stick around, and we're glad to talk to you about anything that's going on beyond the downtown project. Before we truly get started, we do have a new staff member. I think it's his first time at a Town Hall Tuesday. And that's David Witcher, our new Economic Development Director. We're glad he's on board, and thanks for being here, David. And hope you get a chance to go by and meet David and hear about some of the things that he has going on in economic development. But to get to downtown, this is, like I said, just been a very interesting process over the past couple of years. There's always been an interest in seeing something happen in downtown. And the problem is, how do you get that first domino to fall? And we have worked for many years with many plans, many studies, different initiatives to try to get something going on in downtown. But about 2 years ago, when the City Council met and developed their goals and priorities, they placed downtown development among the top priorities in the city and really tasked staff to come up with a process and a plan to revitalize and create opportunities for development in downtown Mesquite. And as we looked around to try to find the best process to do that, we looked at other communities like ours, like Mesquite, that had successful downtowns and had done successful revitalizations. It's nothing new. There's not a magic formula. Every community is unique, and every community needs a special process to go through. So in Mesquite, we decided to start with a citizens visioning group. And tonight we will be kind of filling you in on that part of the process and then giving you a sneak peek at what's to come. And I can promise you there are great things to come for downtown Mesquite. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our Assistant Director of Economic Development, Ms. Kim Buttram. She's been with the city for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years now. Sorry, Kim. And she has success with downtown revitalization in Forney, and she is also very familiar with our retail sector in Mesquite, and she's been another great addition to our staff. So everyone, Kim Buttram. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to get to talk about one of my favorite topics. I get to do two things tonight that I love, talk about downtown. Downtowns are so critical to our communities and a real passion of mine. My husband and I live in a house that was built in 1941 that we redeveloped from the ground up, so I'm no stranger to redevelopment and seeing the potential in things. So, you need me in front of the microphone? Okay. All righty. Tonight, we're talking about downtown Mesquite and, of course, Heritage Square at the center of it all. As Mr. Keeley stated, I'm Kim Buttram, Assistant Director of Economic Development, and tonight's story is really about community-driven development. We decided to show y'all a few pictures to reminisce about the beginnings of Mesquite, officially incorporated on December 3rd, 1887, so we're really close to that anniversary. You'll recognize some names in there. See, Pascal for one. And then this is another shot with the railroad tracks coming through. circa 1915 to 22, not quite sure exactly when. You car buffs may know by that vehicle. And then this is a photo from the 1950s where you can see there's a parade going on. Looks similar to when we're having our rodeo parade nowadays. Lots of people gathered around. And this is actually a shot of the same street then and now. Of course, in the space on the left where you see Gulf, I believe that would be where Wells Fargo sits now. But just an interesting before and after shot that we just wanted to show you. This is an aerial shot that we had taken very recently, within the last 6 months. And you'll notice City Lake Park is right there. And this area, which you'll see later on in the presentation, is very close to what ended up being our official study area of the downtown, which is basically the walkable area. Recent years' activity, we wanted to highlight and remind ourselves that the Heritage Square gazebo has been rehabilitated within the last couple of years. There have been parking enhancements and land acquisition for future parking along the railroad at Front Street, which we'll point out in more detail later. And then, of course, traffic calming crosswalks, decorative lighting. If you've been to the square during this holiday season, it looks just beautiful. Lots of new lighting and a bigger tree, brand new tree. And then, of course, the city purchased the Heritage Plaza building. So there will be more activity going on there in the future. And then a few years further back, since the study was done in 2003, between that time and recent years, some money went into redeveloping Military Parkway. So as a key corridor from 635 straight into downtown, Military Parkway was redesigned and rebuilt and has nice brick paver walkways and looks very, very good. And just to kind of set the stage for downtown redevelopment, we just wanted to point out a few of the other cities that surround us that have successfully redeveloped their downtowns, such as Carrollton and Grand Prairie, and of course Oak Cliff and the Bishop Arts District, downtown Garland, Forney, and then there we are. And these are basically geographically placed to show you that Mesquite really can fill a market gap in this southeastern sector of the Metroplex. And downtown Mesquite really doesn't have that different of demographics of some other very successful downtowns. If you look across 5-mile radius at the age, the makeup of different races, the household income, and the number of homeowners, Mesquite's really very strong when you line it up against a Bishop Arts District, a Grand Prairie, and a Garland. We're very similar. The demographics sometimes can be thought of as the critical link, but that's not necessarily the case. One thing to note about our downtown is being surrounded by 4 interstates and having 6 major feeder roads makes downtown Mesquite very accessible from all directions. So those yellow lines on this map show you all the different feeder roads that go straight into downtown Mesquite. So as Mr. Kahili stated, in 2016, the City Council named downtown redevelopment as a strategic goal. And then again in 2017, when they updated their goals, it remained there. And they specifically said the top priority was to develop a community-wide vision for downtown Mesquite. Now, all of you have families and friends, and you know if you get too many people in the room, it's hard to get consensus. So when they said community-wide, at this point, there's a sampling of citizens from across the city that represent this community-wide vision, and I will be introducing them in just a moment. But why a vision? Why start with a vision? And sometimes you will hear people say, well, we've made plans before. But without a targeted vision, that mission statement, if you will, sometimes we'll do the project that feels best today, or maybe just the one we can afford today. And sometimes the squeaky wheels get the oil. But if you have an adopted, targeted vision, you always have that as your checkpoint to ask yourself, is this in line with the vision? So this grassroots effort, community-based vision, they adopted as the place to start. And this is a best practice for downtown redevelopment. In McKinney, you'll see phase 1, create a common vision. That's circled there for you. Other cities have done some plans that included a vision. Downtown Vision Plan. This is another city. This is another city, Downtown Vision Plan. And this is Dallas, which shows you over a 4-part progression there that they worked with community citizens to form a vision for a specific redevelopment area in Dallas. So this is how you do it, and it's the right way to go about it. So here's your Downtown Vision stakeholder group, and these citizens were enlisted about a year ago because they started their work in January, and we do have a few of these folks here tonight, and we would ask that you would please stand, and we'd like to applaud them for their 6 long months of effort. I see several. Brad, I'm going to call y'all out. Brooks. This is Carolyn. And, of course, Mike Oswald. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we appreciate you volunteering. So this is the proof, pictures of them at work. This is over a 6-month period, just various shots of them working together. They worked in groups, they worked individually, and we mixed the groups up at different meetings. Their first workshop was January 24th of this year. Every workshop we had a mission for the night. And that night it was, where is downtown? We started by asking them what their vision for downtown was and why was it important to them, and we let them share that with each other, and it was really interesting to hear all the different perspectives on why downtown was important to them. But at the end of the night, we ended up with a map, and as you can see, it was not made by the GIS department. What it was that we had a big printout, and we took markers and Post-it notes, and they got to collaborate and discuss. And they really narrowed it down to 3 primary layers. The green area are the corridors that lead to downtown. So we discussed, like as you come off of Highway 80 down Galloway, you pass the Arts Center and City Hall and community icons like the old Whataburger and things like that on your way into downtown. Then coming off the freeway from Military, you'll see a lot of open space and, of course, the Military Parkway road improvements. And then going to the east, you pass Mesquite High School, and there's several, hometown restaurants along that strip. And then to the south, of course, you go into the beautiful older homes and Pascal Park. And so they talked about the corridor that leads to downtown, because that's an important element too. The pink area we call the downtown area. And that's basically your walkable, about a half-mile radius, half-mile to a mile radius, that takes in the park and north of the square and east and west. And then the blue area in the center is the downtown square. So that was their consensus that night on the layers of where is downtown. After that, we did have some money budgeted from 2016 to conduct some studies. So we got an opinion from the Texas Downtown Association. They sent 3 of the successful downtown directors and their association director, and they spent the day in Mesquite. They interviewed businesses, they interviewed property owners, they worked with our stakeholder vision group. Basically, at the end of this, gave Mesquite a big thumbs up that yes, you have the bones here, you have the potential to successfully redevelop downtown based on their many years' experience. Then from March to May, the market analysis took quite a bit more time because this is a 168-page report, and some of you picked up copies of the summary of that tonight, and then the Texas Downtown Association 7-page report, which I'll refer to TDA in the rest of this presentation because that's a mouthful. So TDA and CDS. So CDS, the 168-page report, really dove into the market conditions, not only of Mesquite, but our 20-minute drive time. It assessed from now into 10 years into the future, how much of the market would we absorb here in Mesquite relative to industrial, housing, retail, and then it broke it down into the downtown area based on the proportion of the size of downtown to the rest of Mesquite. So that really helped our group. You'll see later on how they use that to help them facilitate in their mind what kind of projects we could really truly absorb into Mesquite's market. So that took several months. So the group met again in May, and this is just for illustrative purposes, and we don't intend for you to actually be able to see those photos, but let me describe this to you. This night they got the summaries of both reports, and then they were broken up into 3 groups and given storyboards, and staff gave them 140 photos. So each of the 3 groups had the same 140 photos. And we asked them to create a story. Who is coming to downtown? Where are they coming from? How did they get here? What are they coming here to do? How did they find out about it? So that we could get from them the demographic makeup, the kind of businesses that would be there, but also the marketing angle of, how do people find out about this? Then we took these colored circles and circled their common themes. It was very apparent that the Vision Stakeholder Group thought that downtown should have an active outdoor element to it, that there should be some elements of historical significance, that it should be pedestrian and bike friendly, that there should be urban style housing, arts and entertainment, eating and shopping, no brainer. That one was, number one, top of the list. Interesting, though, that they pointed out they'd like to see more public gathering space, like green space where people could gather and hang out. And then they also pointed out that you need to tell people visually where it is, how to get there, and how to get around. So signage and wayfinding was also a common picture that they chose. So in this, our goal was to bring to City Council a vision in words, a vision statement. So how do you get from all of this to a vision statement? Well, we discovered amongst the three groups, out of the 140 photos, there were 17 that were chosen at least twice by two of the groups. I have to pause. We have one more of our vision stakeholder members has snuck in on me. Mr. Greenhall, would you please stand for just a moment? He also participated. Thank you. So the common vision. We would hold up a photo that at least two groups had chosen and ask the group to holler out just one word. That's all they could say. One word. Tell us what this photo meant to you. And these are some of the photos, not all. People dancing, housing, biking, shopping, of course. Pretty spaces. And so from that, we formed and were able to come to consensus on a vision statement. So the Downtown Vision Stakeholder Group states that downtown Mesquite is an energetic, family-friendly environment where people of all ages and cultures gather to dine, shop, celebrate, and live. A creative, attractive, and social destination, downtown Mesquite is rooted in history and reaches out to engage locals, neighbors, and visitors. And those words are all so important because words such as visitors, that engages our Convention Visitor Bureau. Neighbors means that you want it to be a place where you gather with your friends and your family that are around you. And engaging locals means that it reflects the community where it is. So all these words really do mean something, and we do have this on a board over there if you'd like to look at it before you leave tonight. Take your picture with it, share it on social media, I'm just saying. So then this was taken to City Council and adopted by City Council. Let me see if I have that date. Yes, May 31st. The City Council did adopt that as the vision statement. So then from there, the group got back together and we asked them, okay, what kind of projects, what types of projects create that vision, support those words that you stated? Now, I know this again is difficult to read and it's meant just for illustrative purposes. But they were broken into three different groups, mixed up from the last three groups. And we asked them, you want retail or restaurant? That's the pink. If you want housing, urban, single family, or townhomes, that's the yellow. Green is the green space. And orange is office space. So just to give you a little idea of where everything is there, we've got the gazebo pointed out in City Lake Park and the railroad. So when the three different groups laid out their plan, they got to be city planners for the night. We laid those three maps on top of each other, and this one shows you the commonalities. So all three groups focus the development in the core of the downtown square, which of course in the TDA report, I meant to tell you that earlier, TDA recommended, start with the core and then let it develop out as time progresses. So you can focus your redevelopment efforts. So they focused on the core, concentration of development leading into, around, and on the square. And that development looks like this: retail and restaurants, some urban residential, parking and offices within this 16-block area centered with green space. All three groups noticed there was a distinct opportunity in that there was a vacant tract of land across from City Lake Park, across Galloway. And all three groups thought that would be a neat place for mixed use, like residential, retail, mixed use, with some green space, like maybe for a little dog park or at least some green space for gathering. And then wayfinding and signage again came up. They all want signs leading into downtown and around downtown. Some outlying ideas centered around single family, maybe to the north and the south of the square. And then one outlying idea, I believe he's sitting here tonight, thought in the future it might be neat to connect City Lake Park to Pascal Park in the trail system. That is not on the plans, just letting y'all know. This was an outlying idea we thought was unique. So this is a zoomed in look at that in the downtown study area that I mentioned earlier, which is the pink area that the group pointed out, the walkable area. So that shows you it's very mixed. In any downtown you go to, you'll see that there's a mixture of all types of different development. It has to work as a cohesive body. So here's the green space that the groups pointed out there in the center around the gazebo, retail and restaurants around the square, urban residential potentially, office space, and then parking and parking opportunities. Because the Texas Downtown Association pointed out to us and to the group, there's quite a bit of parking around downtown, like in church parking lots and such. So there's potential there to work with those entities to utilize that parking. And I want to point out while we're here as well, the parking along the railroad, the potential parking along the railroad here. This is Front Street, which is the back of the current businesses that used to be the front, or maybe one of two entrances for these businesses. But the city does own that land back there. Okay, next, we said, okay, now you've told us all these different projects. We want, or project types, excuse me, now we want you to get drill down even further and get more specific into the projects. What kind of projects make those developments, make that vision happen? So their last meeting, June 6th, they brainstormed projects and they categorized them and prioritized them, and then we took that to City Council with budget offers. And a budget offer is basically a budget request. In city talk, it's a budget request. So these priority projects centered around four general topics. Under infrastructure, the group recommended connectivity to City Lake Park into the corridors from the downtown square, possibly put common grease traps on each of the blocks so that restaurants could locate on all the blocks, and then the parking on the front street, leading to business attraction and development. They want anchor restaurants, destination unique restaurants, and retail. They mentioned potential for a museum restaurant and possibly urban and mixed-use housing there in downtown so that people actually can live in downtown and bring population to support those businesses on a daily basis. Appearance and beautification, green space in and around the square, historic streetlights, and arts and murals were their top three. And then events and activities. Some of these are already going on. Concerts on the square, carriage rides was a very popular one that made the top three, and then of course family-friendly activities, which we have, but they want increase and more regular activities. So we took some budget requests to the City Council, and these were approved for this 2017-18 fiscal year, which started October 1st, an infrastructure design plan. And I'll just tell you, the Downtown Vision Stakeholders Group, when they saw the word plan, you can kind of hear the air leave the room, like another plan. But this kind of plan, this is a different kind of plan, because with the vision in place, this plan is, where does this infrastructure need to go? Where does this sidewalk need to go? What water line needs replacing? This is like the blueprints when you go to build a house. You don't go from, I want my house to just look like this, and someone starts hammering nails. It's the blueprint. So this blueprint is that the request for proposal is underway for that. Business attraction and development, they approved a retail grant program to help start incentivizing some target businesses. And then appearance and beautification, our wayfinding and signage plan. And it's another plan. It's like, where do you put it? What does it say? And it would need to include a downtown brand. So that was approved for this year. And then someone to manage all of this. Because as Mr. Kahili introduced, Mr. Witcher and myself, we also manage industrial, retail, new business attraction, Interstate 20. So you've really got to have someone who can make a full-time job out of this, building those relationships, knowing those buildings, recruiting those businesses, and managing these big projects. And that is also underway. This is a picture kind of depicting in photos what the downtown manager does. I tried to give a good cross-section of people and activities, but in that top left corner, managing ongoing activities, while our Parks and Rec department does a great job of activities, to have something that really feeds downtown businesses to survive, you've got to have activities almost weekly or monthly, just constantly. So that requires coordination. So that poor guy's on the phone trying to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. And then the other photo shows working with the board. The design of this plan for long-term sustainability of downtown includes a development corporation overseeing the expenditures, which I'll go into more of that in a moment, and then possibly a downtown business association. When you have all these different businesses working together as an association and they're cross-marketing and they've got the same signs in their windows about events and they're putting their advertising dollars together to market outside of Mesquite, that's when real activity can really start to happen. Well, that requires coordination. So that's another task that this manager will have. And I did in the lower left corner there, you would see common advertising where the businesses get together and pool and advertise and market themselves. And then, of course, working with small businesses, one-on-one, guiding and directing them to the right resources. So being an entrepreneur and a small business owner is one of the hardest things to do. And you have to have people helping you, guiding you, and training you along the way. So that downtown manager will be very educated on those resources to point them to. Some of the current events and businesses expansions that are already happening in downtown, you've already seen downtown starting to really blossom. The top center photo depicts a rendering we were given by Stage Door Dance. They purchased 5 lots that are between Gross and College in front of City Lake Park. So they'll be relocating. So they're building a beautiful brand new building near the downtown between the lake and the square. Sounds in the Square is the other photo that you see there that has been going on for the last year. In the bottom right corner is, of course, Pumpkin Fest. And the Mesquite Marketplace, the every other Saturday farmers market and crafts market, is done very, very well. There's a photo there of the quilt shop. If you haven't noticed, the quilt shop has doubled in size over the last year. She had to lease a whole another building. And she's bringing in classes and things like that that bring people in on a regular basis, really do help downtown. And then, of course, most recently, the new tree. Some people ask, what is the difference between now and maybe prior planning? Well, the best laid plans cost money. And sometimes you have things that are just, frankly, they take precedent. An economic downturn or other things that are must-haves. Well, the City Council will be seeing this on their agenda on the 18th of December to approve a plan that extends and expands one of our TERS zones, and that stands for Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. The TERS number 2 is 18 years old, and it's in the blue area around the Mesquite Retail District. Well, this TERS is under consideration to be expanded to cover the Market East area where Target is and the downtown area. So what this does, and I'll give you the quick and simple version, a TERS is not a new tax. A TERS is an allocation. It's kind of like when you make your budget and you say this much is going to go to groceries and this much is going to go to entertainment. This takes any new value increase over the next 20 some odd years and says this portion of that is going to go to projects in downtown or projects in the retail district. Well, downtown will have a 23-year cash flow of funds with this TERS in place. It also tells investors and the outside development community that we're serious about redeveloping downtown. And if you invest here, we're right there alongside you reinvesting into this area. And every time a new investment is made, it makes that TERS grow exponentially. That is been approved already by the TERS board and will go to council on the 18th. And I would like to open this up to any questions that you have. If I missed anything or if you just really want to know more, I'd love to talk about it. Yes, ma'am.
Have you talked anything about a visitor center being moved more in the downtown area? Because I know that's one area where they can promote businesses, and that's an area where people go to find out about what's available in our community. So.
I'm punting that question to our city manager.
And before next person wants to ask a question, we've got a microphone so you can hear. Basically, to answer your question about a tourist center, absolutely. Downtown is the destination we want to direct visitors to, and that is our objective. That was one of the reasons why we purchased property down there, and eventually we hope to have our visitor center and also our Convention and Visitors Bureau staff down there as well. We feel that the city will have an investment of its own staff and own people in downtown to help with the future success. Are we on?
That jogged my memory that I would be remiss to not mention. Working with our Downtown Vision stakeholder group of about 20, there was an entire staff team that worked together on this. Besides myself, we also had a planning and development and Convention Visitor Bureau, and one of the staff partners is here tonight, Judy Scourin, so thank you. And Historic Mesquite, Charlene Orr. So we had a 5-member staff team that worked together too. I'm just the mouth. There was a whole team.
Any other questions?
I'd like to,
A second.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, we've got a microphone for you.
I just have a couple questions. Over the years, I'm going to say what, the last 15 years or so about planning the downtown development, how much money has been spent on all the planning that there's always seems to be a different scope come up about every 5 years or 8 years. There's a new design, there's a new plan, and yet the infrastructure down there, the sidewalks are terrible. And I'm like, when are we going to see improvement on that?
Well, first of all, this last planning effort required no funds going outside the city. We did it all with internal staff. We had great expertise from Kim's experience before, so we did it all internal. We did pay for the 2 studies, the market study and the Texas Downtown Association, but we felt those were vital to educate the citizen task force and vision group. When it comes to infrastructure, Kim was laying out that plan that will take some funds because we're engaging engineers to help us with cost estimates and helping us lay out that scope. We already have a project in place for the Military Parkway Trail, and that is a partnership with Dallas County and city funds. So that will bring the trail from the rodeo all the way to Galloway through downtown. So we'll have walking. That will be the first project, and I apologize, I don't have an exact time frame, but it's under design now, and it should be one of the first ones. Our hope, and with the TIF funding in place, our goal as a staff is to have a contract ready to go January 2019 to start on one of the major infrastructure projects. We just don't know which one because of the different order that the engineers are going to advise us on.
And if you don't mind a follow-up, my family owns quite a few properties in this zone, and I noticed on the mapping, urban development from possibly residential and then question marks. Well, a lot of those are on the property they own.
Certainly.
And what do you plan on doing to the existing business owners in this area? Is there any kind of a scope or plan you plan on talking to the actual property owners?
When it comes to land use planning, that is something, again, more discussion. What you saw up there was a vision. These were, our visioning group said, we'd like to see these things. It was never meant to be an exact, this property is going to turn into this. We said it's a representation of what we would like to see. So what will become of those depends on the market, it depends on the property owner, and it depends on what interest comes in from outside for redevelopment. So I'd love to tell you that it's this restaurant or this house, but that's down the road. We have to have a starting point somewhere.
May I
But,
add something
but
to
we'd
that?
like to talk to you as property owners afterwards.
Nobody ever has.
Okay, absolutely,
That's why
certainly.
we're a little
Absolutely.
concerned about it.
Absolutely.
Nobody ever talks to us.
Okay.
So,
I think I have the mic.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
We also own property in the area, and my question has to do with zoning. What is the zoning going to change to, or is the zoning going to change? Is it going to preclude what we can do with our property?
I think that's a question left to be determined. It will take a zoning effort to either restrict or guide what we want to see as development occurs. But again, that's a community-based input where it's not staff, it's not council that's going to decide exactly what occurs down there. It will be a community directive. So if we undertake a zoning effort, as a property owner, absolutely. There will be public hearings anytime we do a process to change zoning or restrict what will occur. It's a public input, and the final decision rests with your elected officials. Well, with input, the final decision is made by the city council, but I can promise you this council takes into account what the property owner's input is. No, stay there.
I just wanted to say that I know Garland has done an excellent job with their downtown corridor. They have everything that we've been talking about. Would there be the possibility of something in our downtown, say, like the intrinsic brewery, like the football tables and the games that they have in their square? It's really quite nice.
That is one of the models that we are looking at, and those are models of success that we'd like to duplicate. Any other questions?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I was also wondering for the future, you guys were talking about parking. Are you guys going to do a designated drop-off pickup zone for like ride sharing? I do a little bit of that, and I have a company, but a lot of the downtowns have pickups and drop-offs for ride sharing, because that's a long way a lot of people get in and out. And also in the future, it'll be automated, I think, eventually. I know it sounds crazy, but it was crazy to walk into a stranger's car 2 years ago, right? But a lot of people use those. Are you guys thinking about a designated zone, make it easier for people to pick up and drop off, help with the traffic flow and the parking?
That is probably a public hearing that we are going to have here in a few months. The council has directed to undertake a study of transportation options in the community, and there are several options available. That's one of many to consider. And again, that's public input that we need to gather before a decision's made. But that one of the plans does show a drop-off and pickup point closer into downtown, a little bit closer than the Hamby Park and Ride is now. Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure that I understand that there's not going to be a tax increase to cover these costs. These costs have been approved, and money will be designated for those.
Correct. The tax increment reinvestment zone basically captures all the tax money that you're paying now and funnels that into this fund. So there is no tax increase for this project.
Could we go back to the slide that had the squares on it? a single family, I guess that's a question mark in those areas. Does that mean, depending on the interest or the commercial interest, what's going to happen within those areas? Or what does that actually say?
I don't want to speak for all of the vision group, but as the exercise was going on, they felt that that area had the potential for housing of some sort. Like I said before, these are not exact representations of what will happen in the future, but one of the strong feelings and what we found through looking at other downtown areas is that there is a need for a residential community nearby. And so looking for options for housing, the area across the railroad tracks. If you go a little bit further, it's not on this map, but if you go a little bit further, there are single-family residents and plenty of open space up there that has the potential for redevelopment.
You talk about on the other side of the track, so in that area there, if you go back to the other slide, it's right across from City Park.
Oh, down here?
No, up right there, down. In that area there, where you've got the question mark, the single family question mark. With the houses that are already there, now there is a big open field for the building next to you now. Is that an area that's considered for housing? Because they've already changed, they're already building.
Again, that's what we're hoping that the market will help us decide. And as we move forward with any land use planning and rezoning, our hope is that the property owners there will have the opportunity to attract new development. And it's up for the council consideration. Just like the dance studio, that was an opportunity to look and see what the potential was, and was a decision of the city council.
I guess I don't really know what that means. I mean,
Oh.
does that mean that property, those areas, isn't quite what we want in that area? So we want to develop that, give them the opportunity to make it closer? I know those are a lot of the older homes.
If there were if a property owner or a developer wanted to come in and change that to something else, that would be a consideration when it comes to zoning and any sort of redevelopment plan. So I wouldn't let the question mark in a yellow say that we question whether single family works there. It really depends on what downtown becomes and how it develops into the future. I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards to try to go into a little bit more depth.
I actually have two different questions. One would be that I know we already have that tax revenue set aside for it. There also going to be some federal grants involved that might go above and beyond that. I would have to push it real fast as well. There's a list of stakeholders that are involved with it, but there's a vision to improve, whether it's appearing to look the flow of the area. And some of those stakeholders, the president might not benefit that future vision of it, or some of those stakeholders maybe we look at it as spot, maybe it's an auto place or anything, any area that might not fit a vision of what it could look like, would that be kind of dealing with stakeholders who may not have a permanent presence in the area? I have two questions. Are there going to be federal grants?
Talk to grants.
Are there some stakeholders involved or businesses downtown that we might want to move out of the area just to kind of create more of a circle or like a town square, a town hall?
To answer your first questions, that's one of the tasks that the downtown manager will have, is to research those grants and look into grants that we could potentially qualify for. And grants, of course, take a lot of staff time to write and to manage, but that is something that we have on the to-do list for the downtown manager. Absolutely.
And I think to answer your second question, our intent is not to relocate anyone or put anyone out of business. It is it's an area that's going to evolve over time. If you look at different parts of our community right now, as development has occurred, as commercial businesses have expanded, you've seen property change. And so, again, there are market forces. Whatever downtown turns into, we don't have a plan to say it's going to be 30 restaurants like Bishop Arts. We'd like that, but it could be something completely different. It could be more office space. So it just depends on what those properties will turn into, and again, how it evolves over time. And again, this is not something that's going to happen next year or the year after. We're looking at a 20-year time frame to see what downtown will really turn into.
One observation, I know I didn't follow a lot of the comparisons that you did, Forney, Garland, McKinney, but I know that Bishop Arts didn't happen overnight. I mean, I'm sure they had meetings like this and didn't really know how it turned out. I know some of the things they tried at first didn't really work out. I imagine it will be no different. Some will be some surprises in a great way that we didn't expect, and some not so much. So, I mean, I think that's just part of, you can have a plan and a vision, how you get there can be different. I know it sounds like a lot of vagueness, and you gotta go with, and I'm a property owner too, so I feel you. But those are just, there's just a,
Yeah. And you know, our ultimate goal is to put the pieces together so there is the opportunity. If it is grease traps to help restaurants locate on the square, or if it is more parking to attract a certain type of retailer or business that requires a certain amount of parking within so many feet of their front door. Those are the types of elements that the city feels that we can put into place so development can be successful. Yes, ma'am.
One of the most common responses that I hear when I discuss Heritage Square residents, I don't know how knowledgeable they are, is that the property owners, specifically on Heritage Square, their rental or purchase prices are so exorbitant, it's a hindrance to anybody wanting to come in. I'd like to be able to counter. Is that true for them?
What was that last part? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Is that true for them? Do they know what to talk about?
You know, that's a good pointed question. I'm going to try to answer that as politically correct as possible. There are lease rates downtown and property values. You know, the property owners have to put lease rates in place to maintain the property and to pay taxes and to you know, keep the building standing. So it's up to them to determine what those lease rates are. There are some business owners that we've talked to that are willing to go a certain number of years with a lower lease rate in order to try to bring a business in and help them be successful. It just really depends on the structure and the situation and the type of business that comes in. And so to answer your question, yes, the property owners have to really be committed to the success and maybe take a chance here and there. But then there are also opportunities through this effort to where we're going to try to help those business owners with some of those structural improvements that they need, so their lease rates don't have to be as high. So we're going to be in partnership with the property owners. Yes, ma'am.
So just to make sure my understanding is correct, the next immediate step for change in that area will be the trail. Was that correct?
That's the first infrastructure project that we have on the books. And then like I said, there will be plans for other infrastructure. You know, as I've told my staff, it will be January 2019. We are under contract for a major infrastructure project.
And so in the meantime, within those 2 years, is there somebody currently that is scouting for businesses down there, or are you going to need to fill that position first, and then they'll put action to scouting?
Right now, Kim and David are responsible for doing that, and we are actively hiring for that downtown manager, so we hope to have them in place sometime in mid-January. But that will be one of the primary functions over that until infrastructure starts, is planning the events, attracting businesses, and really trying to get the property owners together and have this downtown development corporation, because those are the state recommendations to the city council for any grants or any projects as they occur. Yes, ma'am.
business owners and the businesses that we are in not being conducive to the vision that you're looking for. I'm in the car business. I'm in the
Sure.
used car business.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have 4 pieces of property on that one corner, car business. And 15 years ago, the paper ran the story that anything pertaining to used cars, automotive, repairs, or anything that relates to that, they did not want. Therefore, we got restrictions put on us that if a piece of property became vacant for 6 months, we lost our zoning. They made it very clear that we were not welcome. They didn't like our business. And yet I can tell you the number of people that the car industry, Ms. Makeda, has brought in to Mesquite from other parts of town because we do a good business. I don't want to feel the crunch again from the city putting restrictions on corner for 36 years that have a wonderful referrals business. It may not be the most attractive, but all that property is kept well. The taxes are paid, and we have walked the line to do whatever we've been asked. And I'd just like to state that I have no intentions of moving because these are my children. And while I will retire, they will not.
Well, two answers to that. That first, I think the study and some of the subsequent actions that you were referring to, we have felt was never really embraced by the property owners downtown. It was, I was not part of that process, but I understand your concerns there. And the second thing, well, 3 answers. The people who will help make those decisions are sitting right next to you. And again, like I said, they listen to the property owners. And third, if you've had a chance to drive to downtown Garland, you see an intrinsic barbecue, a whole square under revitalization. And as you drive into that square, I believe you pass by several automotive businesses. Me personally, and I just work here. I don't see it as a deterrent, and and that is left to be determined. But like I said, that group there will make the ultimate decision, and all of them do listen intently. So we are at our time limit, and so I want to thank everyone tonight for being here. I want to thank Kim Buttram, if you'll help me thank her. We have displays around, and again, staff here to answer any questions. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the City Council, and we're going to speak at the podium, is what I'm being told. So whoever wants to go first.
Can I introduce everybody? Y'all mind? I want to ask one question. Stan Pickett, Mayor of the Mesquite, for those of you that haven't met Mayor, had a chance to meet you. How many in this room either own a business or property downtown Mesquite? That's great. Thank y'all for being here tonight.
You need a better backdrop.
Backdrop?
Yes. You need a much better backdrop for talking to the group here. There you go.
I'm not going to talk much. They're ready to go home.
There you go.
One thing I'll tell you just before, and give all of our council members a chance to come up here and say something to you, is I've owned a small business here in Mesquite for 34 years. A lot of times I've been elected here and people have said, I want that building, that property destroyed, torn up, thrown up, taken down, whatever. And I think about somebody owns that property. And I think about the fact that somebody's passing that property on to somebody else. And it's real easy on Facebook or somewhere else to say, I want the city to XYZ. And I tell you something, we want to have the best city we can, and we want our properties to look nice, which I think everybody in this room does that. But you know, I have a really hard time. I have a real struggle when somebody tells me, I want you to go out there and tear that building down and take, foreclose on that property, when sometimes it's just a matter of it is a family member that just doesn't have the money to keep it up. So we hear that and we know that, and I know for me especially, I really do. Tonight, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and we have several. I know they're dying to come up here and speak to you just for a few minutes. We won't keep you too late. And so that I get this right, our Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Dan Alleman's here, Councilman Tandy Burrows, Councilman Bruce Archer, and Councilman Robert Miklos. And y'all pick the order, but I'm going to and Mr. Councilman O'Shea, excuse me. It was an empty chair. And I know they all want to get a chance briefly to come up and say a few words. So, Bruce, you get to kick it off. We'll just go down the row.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm always extremely excited to talk about our downtown square. I'm very passionate about that place. I spent a lot of time as a boy around that square, and it's very meaningful to me. And I saw it when there were flourishing businesses up and down every section of that square, and I saw it when it was a destination place with lots of great activities taking place all the time. And somewhere, I guess in the late 90s and the early 2000s, it began to go downhill. And, there's a lot of reasons probably for that, but the bottom line is it was allowed to decay. It was allowed to go downhill, as you mentioned a while ago, no doubt about it. And when I ran for council in 2014, one of the reasons I ran was because it was just on my heart that it was just wrong and immoral to allow such a special place that we would be letting down our forefathers and mothers of this town and future generations who could enjoy that wonderful place, and that we had to do something about it. And so we began to fight for it. Now, before I mention some expenditures that were made, I'm thankful for Community Heart, which used to be Mainstream Mesquite. When Cliff was our parks director, they were all working together to keep it kind of struggling along. I'm thankful for the efforts that they were making, but it wasn't going to go where it needed to go in that capacity. And so we began to rev it up some. And about 2 years ago, as you heard, we began to make plans. And the 4B, we've got some 4B funds, about $100,000 to spruce up that beautiful gazebo that Donna's husband designed back in the 70s, and fix that parking lot over there. And sure, that's just a small start, but it was an important start to show that we're going to move that square forward. We started having little bitty concerts. Art and I and a few others had a little music gathering on the gazebo in the summer of 2014. And then the Parks Department started chipping in, and we started having more events. And my gosh, if you were at the square at the tree line the other night, we've come a long ways. There are more partners coming in. And used to, people would say, we can't do anything about the square because some of the property owners, they don't want to pony up. And I said, no, that's unacceptable. We got to find a plan B or a plan C, whatever it takes. We cannot let that square decay, and we're not going to. And that's why you see what you see here tonight. You made a comment a while ago, we've seen plans after plans. Well, I'm just going to be very honest with you. Plans mean nothing if the political will is not there to move those things forward. And for whatever reason, the political will was not there the last several years to move that square forward. And I can tell you today, I'll look you in the eye and tell you that you've got people on this council today, that political will is there. And we'll do whatever it takes to keep that square moving forward for history purposes. And if you go look at any study of how older suburbs revived themselves, a downtown historic district being revitalized is always a critical part of that equation. So we're not going to let up. Now, as was said earlier, it's not a quick process. It didn't get to where it was overnight. It's going to take some more years. But, every other Saturday we're having the farmers market down there. We have lots of events down there that Community Heart has put together, and now our Parks Department. We are not going to let up. And now we have an opportunity with these extra financing tools to provide grace traps that will make it easier to, God willing, attract some nice restaurants down there. So we got a long ways to go, but if we keep the political will there and all of you keep working with us, there's nothing we can't do. The Gathering Church allows their facility to be used for a number of things, and we're just going to keep pushing forward. I'm proud of what we're doing, but again, it won't happen overnight. And to your concern, again, like Mr. Kahita said, I'm just one person, but in my opinion, we've got plenty to do just with the old square part itself that I'm not even thinking about what you guys are doing. And thank you for being a local business. We got plenty to do right there on the old square to be worried about where you guys are at. So I believe that we're going to do great things with that square. We're going to have the political will to do it now. We'll keep fighting and moving forward. So thank you all for being here tonight, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank y'all for coming out. It's so good to see. I mean, we have these town halls. If we could fill this room every time we have a town hall, that would be amazing. I mean, that's the reason we have them, is to get citizens' input so that you can let us know your questions and what you do need and what you want. But the downtown square, the old part of the square that has been torn down, my dad started a business, Burroughs Sign Company, 46 years ago down there. So we didn't own the building, but we had a big section of it. Now, we recently moved out, got larger, so I've seen the square over the years, where it was and how it's gone down, and where it was, the businesses that have come and gone, restaurants that have come and gone out of there. I've seen all that. I've been here a long time. And I know, because I've talked about it before I was on the council. I hear about this study was done, this study, and we spent this much money on this study, but I too had not seen anything done. But I can guarantee you with this council that we have now, we're all committed to get something done on that downtown square. Absolutely. I can guarantee you that. I know every one of these guys. I've said at council meetings, I've said in e-board, we know that needs to be done. That's the reason at this last, we give out money, budget, thank you, sir. At the last budget, we dedicated money to try to get that kicked off, and we are working on hiring someone that can try to get businesses in here, work with our stakeholders, the people that own businesses down there, to get everybody together, working on a vision that's going to get it kicked off and actually do something, and not a bunch of plans that just sit over on the shelves that we said, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I think you're going to see this is actually going to happen. So thank you all for coming.
I want to add my word of thanks as well to all of y'all for coming out on a cold night. And thank you, Kim. And I just want to say and echo our city manager about the city council. We are listening. And I appreciate so much. We're not about tearing down business. We want to build business. We want to see business get stronger. So I appreciate your comments and what you said. And we are ready to listen. And I have my office on the square. I go to church on the square. I'm the pastor of the church on that square. I care about that square. We are committed to do something with that square. And I'm very excited because in recent years, just like Councilman Archer said, we've seen the growth of a lot of activity around there with the farmers market. And like was mentioned, the Christmas on the square. You know what got me real excited? Seeing all the young families out there, all the children coming around. And I appreciate the vision also about family activity, bringing the family out. We do live in a large city, a city of 145,000 people. It's a big city, but I like the small feel here in this city, like I'm sure a lot of you do. And it's a good small feel where you do count on referrals and people that you know, and we get to know each other. And we need to build on that. That's what I'm hoping for, even with the square, that we get to know each other more and more. And when we see each other, we're acquainted with each other. And we can't lose that. And I think that just spills over into caring more for our community, caring more for our neighbors. And it is a connecting the dots type thing. I'll tell you one thing, the economy is strong right now. And that gets me really excited. We can do some things right now. So if there's a hope level that's up, it's right now. So I appreciate that, and just continue to pray. Those of y'all, you have faith, you believe, continue to pray for right decisions to be made in the right direction moving forward for the future of our city. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
I always forget that coming to these town hall meetings that there's a very high potential of speaking. So I was not dressed up for a meeting tonight, so I apologize for that. In fact, I was just cooking dinner and got it right under the wire before I had to leave to get here. And I appreciate all the comments. They're absolutely right. If y'all are in all the meetings, there is a let's stop talking, let's start doing sort of attitude to it. I like a plan, but I don't like a plan after a plan after a plan after a plan. I like to get to it. And so I'll say this. I had an opportunity about 9 years ago to have an office, and I could have had an office anywhere, and I put it in the Heritage. I put it in the old downtown, and that was never a discussion. I just loved that spot, loved that location, put it there. And because the way I look at this is our downtown is our cultural and spiritual heart of the community, and in moving it forward, it's not about running people out. It's not about, well, there's a yellow sticker here, that means I got to move. If we're going to do this right, it's going to be all of us pulling together to move the downtown forward, putting good-sized restaurants there that's going to increase the traffic, the pedestrian traffic, fixing the sidewalks in that area so that people want to walk up and down it at 8 o'clock on a Thursday, going into retail stores on a Saturday afternoon, and all of us pulling together to do this. If we start fighting amongst ourselves, property owner, business owner, this use versus that use, instead of getting buy-in from everybody, it won't be the cultural heart. It won't be a cultural center. It'll be very sterile, esoteric, and it won't be something that we were all happy with going forward. So instead, this process absolutely has to be all of us going, what do we want? What are we doing? And if we get to a parcel of land and there's a use there, that use needs to stay there. And if an opportunity comes and someone says, hey, I'd like to do that, then it should be the business owner or the property owner saying, all right, I bought into this. This is going well. Let's do that instead of running them off or do anything like that. And that's got to be the commitment for all of us. We're not going to raise taxes to do it. A TERS, it says the taxes you already paid, a little bit of it's going to go and stay in that area. So I'm betting you want some of your property taxes to fix your sidewalk, right? Right, property owners? You want some of your property taxes going back to you, to your properties, to fix your properties. And that's what we got to go back to, is the downtown is our true core center heart of our community. And the only way we're really going to truly get this together and get it done properly is to all work together to make it what I think we all know in our head it ought to be. Saturday afternoon, and I'm not saying Babe's Chicken is coming here, but if we had a Babe's Chicken down there and we came out there at 2:30 in the afternoon and we had sort of a carbohydrate stupor, and then we went into 2 or 3 other, like a candy shop and a coffee shop, and woke back up and then drove back to our home 5 miles down the road, right? That's the downtown square we want. Hey, I can't believe it. I just spent $100 down there. Where'd my money go? I guess I can't buy anything else for the next week, right? That's how we got to look at the downtown square. A place to spend money, to shop, have a band on Saturday afternoon, and it all sounds good, right? We got to stop talking and start doing, right? Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. That's it. Just my rattle. Thank y'all.
I'm going to keep it relatively short, but you're going to see a stark contrast between what Mr. Miklos just discussed and what I'm going to discuss. And it's the difference between having boys and having girls at home. Because with It's a Bling thing on that square and 4 women in my house, $100 is a cheap day on the square. So, and if It's a Bling thing ever shuts down, there's going to be hell to pay in my house. So I can tell you, just based on that, I am committed to downtown. I'm going to continue to support investment in downtown and want to see that vision that you guys have shared with us, that the downtown group has shared with us, and that I know that all of these guys and my colleagues on the council share with me. So we're going to move it forward. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your continued engagement. And thank you for, most of all, enduring these 6 people speaking here at the end of this. So thank you.
You know, it's nice to have a positive meeting for a change, right? To come up and talk about what good things we want to do in Mesquite. So I'd ask for questions, but I think we're about questioned out. So there's waters and things over here. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see you tonight. And we'll do this again in January, February. We'll have the next town hall meeting. We have council meeting Monday night, 7 o'clock, right downstairs. Thank y'all.